This is Rosen Institute's Your Law Firm, where Lee Rosen and Ned Days cover management, marketing, finance, and new technologies for building the practice you deserve. Rosen Institute members received this episode early, as well as exclusive segments on gaining clarity around your vision, an answer to a member question about hiring a US-based versus overseas virtual assistant, and this week's episodes on strategic planning, a program designed to help you execute and implement your vision. Get access to everything you're missing at roseninstitute.com/join. Here's Lee Rosen.
It's good to be with you today from Raleigh, North Carolina. We flew here semi-unexpectedly from Paris when my wife's father passed away. He had been in poor health for quite some time, and we knew it was coming, but this sort of thing is always a bit of a surprise, and we found ourselves flying across the Atlantic on short notice. We've been here for a few days helping out and assisting in the arrangement of what turned out to be a really beautiful funeral with military honors. It was all very touching and emotional. It's been a tough period, but everyone is doing as well as can be expected, and things are moving forward.
It's time for your tech tip. I don't want to be uncharitable, but in law practices, we are sometimes a little behind the curve when it comes to client service. Even when we are better than other attorneys, we are not up to the standards of, say, the artisanal funnel cake food truck that has tap to pay and lets me watch the status of my funnel cake from my phone. Or the 20-year-old mobile auto detailer who is still wearing an ankle monitor from his last stint in prison and yet somehow has an easier scheduling and invoicing platform than the $5 million a year law practice. I don't talk a lot about add-ons for practice management systems. There are certainly some gems, but a lot of them kind of feel like solutions in search of problems or a slapped-together solution for something that's really better as a separate app. But there's an interesting product called Hona available at hona.com that aims to make client communication and interaction more on par with the trendy taco spot downtown than other law firms, and I mean that in a good way. It basically handles a dozen, give or take, smaller bits of functionality that are exactly the kinds of things where you'd say, I wish my practice management system did X, but it's one service instead of 6. Most of your interactions with Hona are via a Chrome extension that provides a sidebar on top of Clio or other practice management systems, and it contains a host of information and functionality related to communication and interaction for the client whose record you are viewing. I first came across Hona because of its SMS text messaging functionality. When you are on a client's record, you see a full history of text messages with that client. You can send and receive new messages right from the sidebar, and you can see who sent and viewed previous messages. There's a lot of flexibility with the numbers. You can have Hona spin one up for you. You can port one in. You can have different numbers for different offices if you want, whatever makes the most sense for you. This alone is pretty awesome. As we increasingly interact with clients via text, having a centralized way to view and manage all of that communication is a huge improvement, not just in making communication easier for clients, but in making it easier for your team to stay on top of what's happening and to store every interaction, not just email. But there's a lot more going on than just managing client text messages. There is a LawPay integration so that you can send payment requests via SMS, an e-signature platform so that you can send out signature requests via text or email. You can request documents or files for upload, and a lot more. Hona essentially acts like a client portal for all interaction and communication. Clients can keep on top of case status or access and upload documents by tapping links via email or text. They can configure their own notification preferences too. There's a fairly comprehensive form builder tool that allows you to create forms and assign them to a client. It saves the progress. You can automate reminders if they didn't start or didn't finish the form, and you can then use the form data to automatically populate Clio fields. For the data junkies, you get stats on who hasn't been contacted recently, who has or hasn't logged into the portal. It, of course, includes everyone's favorite automated review requests that can prompt for a Google review if the score is high enough. Now, I think you should actually ask your client for a review like a normal human, since that tends to get the best results, but I am aware nobody wants to do that, so I suppose this is the next best thing. And I've talked a lot about Clio, which is the 800-pound gorilla, so pretty much all of the features are integrated and work there. But Hona also offers support for a lot of other practice management systems: Filevine, MyCase, Locus, Practice Panther, Smart Advocate, Salesforce, and several others. And there's also Zapier support, so you can tie in data to almost anything else you want. There's a calendaring functionality so that you can create events for clients in Hona and then push them to Outlook. Clients can then see their upcoming events in their portal as well as get reminders via text or email. So you will finally be on par with the 16-year-old dog walker who says 6-7 all the time, but is somehow better at billing and collecting than your very esteemed practice. And while most of your day-to-day interaction happens via the Chrome extension in your practice management system, Hona has a site and dashboard of its own to configure all of your SMS numbers, communication methods, forms, workflows, and everything else. But what really appeals to me is that it treats your practice management system as the single source of truth when it comes to client data. So, for instance, if you are using Clio and you have set up Hona forms to collect client data, you've taken in documents from clients via text message or the portal or anything else, it is all saved to the Clio record. You aren't locked in if you ever decide you want to change things up or use a different service, and you are not missing critical communications if for some reason the connection isn't working that morning. There is a dedicated lead capture platform that lets you configure a website chatbot for triaging site visitors and tracking them before they even retain. And their latest addition is an AI call handling feature. They pitch this as geared toward after hours and overflow calls. You set up different personas or buckets you expect calls to fall into, like sales calls, clients, opposing counsel, or whatever else you are expecting to get. You basically describe in natural language, here's what a divorce call sounds like, here's what an estate planning call sounds like, here's what a sales call sounds like. The agent can take a message, transfer calls based on call type, and you can even connect some calendaring products to let it book appointments. I called up a demo number to play around with it, and I expected it to be janky, but it actually seemed pretty effective. At our practice, we used a human answering service for overflow and after-hours calls, which more or less amounted to a human writing down a voicemail instead of saying, leave a message at the tone. And I honestly think this is probably a better solution than making callers hunt through phone trees or talk to an answering service that doesn't have any information about your firm other than the practice area and operating hours. Pricing for Hona starts at $400 per month, depending on the firm size and feature set. There are lots of options and more functionality than I've covered here, but in an industry that has traditionally struggled with providing a client experience that keeps pace with other service providers, it offers an easy way to start making up ground. I'm Ned Days, and that's your tech tip.
And now for your moment of concise advice. I get messages from folks in our community all the time that go something like this. I was doing great, the money was rolling in, business was strong, and then it all started falling apart. Well, that causes me to ask questions because I can't just hear that statement without wondering what went wrong. And when I ask what happened, the story is often the same, though it comes wrapped up in different, what I will call excuses. They tell me that they were doing the marketing, things like sending newsletters and hosting events and building their network and running online ads and staying visible, and it was all working. And then they stopped with the marketing. They just didn't do what they had been doing. They got distracted, sometimes by a flood of client work, sometimes by shiny new marketing toys that pulled them away from what they had been focusing on. Sometimes it's just by life itself. The kids are getting older, the family needs shift, the calendar is filling up, and before long, the marketing engine is not getting any fuel. There's just no focus on the marketing. And meanwhile, the pressure starts to build. The bills don't stop. The stress keeps the lawyer who's not doing the marketing up at night. And that easy confidence that they once had, it starts to slip, and panic starts to fill that void. That's the hole, and the hole starts to get deeper. And the deeper the hole gets, the more you fall down into that pit, the harder it is to climb out. At first, the person who is pulled back on the marketing, they don't even realize it. They don't even notice. It's just like when an airplane engine shuts off. The airplane doesn't nosedive immediately. It glides. It keeps going. It just drifts down slowly. And in a law firm, drifting, the revenues stay pretty high. The momentum carries the firm forward. And you start to feel like everything is fine, even though you're not focused on the marketing. But the glide, it does not last forever. It always ends in a crash if you don't restart the engine of that airplane. That's the problem. And that is exactly what happens to the law firm. But it doesn't need to end in a crash. It doesn't need to go that way. And here's the good news. Rebooting the law firm, it does not, in this situation, mean inventing something brand new. It doesn't mean going through the process of throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what works or waiting for marketing inspiration. No. What it means is going back to what you were already doing that you know works. You've done this successfully before. You have the model. You have proven it. You know exactly how your marketing model performs. The only piece that's missing is your input, your focus, your energy. If you think of it sort of like fitness and exercise, everyone has had that moment when they've let their entire workout routine just slide. At first, you're still feeling pretty good. You're letting the exercise slip, but you're doing all right. And you skip the gym for a few weeks, and it's just no big deal. But months later, you discover that you are sluggish, that you're out of shape, that you get winded when you're climbing the stairs. The solution, it's not some new miracle diet or some sort of fitness gadget. No, it's the same thing that worked before. You already know what to do. You show up, you lift the weights, you run the miles. You do whatever works for you, and you do it consistently. You have been down this path before, so you know what works, and it is exactly the same in the law firm. You don't need a miracle. You just need discipline. You need to get back to doing the things that you know drive the results for your practice and your practice area. You need to do it a lot, not once, not twice, but consistently. And because you've let things slide, you may need to do more at first to get the momentum back, to get that mojo happening. If you used to host one marketing event a year, well, maybe now you need to host 2 or 3. If you used to post on social media once a week, well, maybe now it's 2 or 3 or 4 times a week until your pipeline starts to fill up again. But there is one piece of this that is challenging. We know what to do. We know how to do it. We've done it before. We get it. We are ready to go. But there's this moment where once you've built a law firm, once you've built something successful, once you've been down this path before, there's this feeling that some of us get where it feels a little bit beneath us to have to get back out and hustle, to get back out and do the work of bringing in the business. And some of us have this conversation with ourselves that goes something like this. At this stage, I should be past this. At this stage, it's embarrassing that I have to keep shaking hands and running ads and building connections. That's the sort of conversation that many of us have, that idea that going back to this sort of working, marketing, getting out there, putting our name out is something we shouldn't have to do. That conversation, that story, it will kill you. You know, marketing is not something that comes and goes. It's not a phase you pass through. No, every professional services firm in the world, the biggest, the most powerful firms, they still have partners out pounding the pavement, cultivating relationships, bringing in the work. That's the system. That's the machine. It never stops. If you stop, you fail. You have to keep doing the marketing. It is not beneath you. It is an essential component of what makes the business work. But for too many of us, what is standing in the way of restarting our marketing engine is not complexity. It's pride. It's fear of rejection, fear of vulnerability, fear of the work, fear of embarrassment, and pride that says, you've already arrived. You shouldn't have to do it anymore. Both of those stories are poison. The truth is, you have done it before, and because you have done it before, you know that you can do it again. And now you've got an advantage that you didn't have the first time around. You have proof. You know exactly what works. You know exactly what it takes. You know exactly how to do it. So let's get going. This is how you're going to restart that marketing machine. Stop telling yourself the story about why it all slipped away. Let that go. Stop overcomplicating it with a dozen new strategies or ideas. Stop pretending that you're above the hustle. Start doing what worked. Start doing what worked and double down on it until the momentum roars back. You don't need to reinvent yourself. You just need to go back to doing what you did that worked. You just need to hit the gas. The only question at this point is this: are you going to fire the engine back up? Are you going to get it going again, just like you had it going before? Or are you going to keep gliding until you crash? That is your moment of concise advice. Wrapping up from Raleigh, thanks for spending a few minutes with me and Ned today. We hope you have a great weekend and an even better week next week. Keep plugging away, moving forward, and getting things done. You're on the right track. You'll get there, I promise. We're all in this together, and together we build better practices through better marketing, better management, and better technology. Until next time, I'm Lee Rosen.
Thanks for listening to Your Law Firm. Subscribe to the Friday File at roseninstitute.com and join thousands of lawyers focused on working on, instead of in, their practices. You'll find safe, successful, actionable approaches for transforming your firm. Sign up for free at roseninstitute.com.